Hello everyone, this is a pre-recorded lecture video for the topic Chinese literature and the Analects of Confucius. Now, last meeting I asked you to write down some of the traditions that still exist in your household, and you came up with so many traditions. Then we started off by, taking the hand of the elders and kissing or letting your forehead touch it, which is a sign of respect by the younger generation towards the older ones. You also came up with killing a chicken, putting the chicken's blood on your forehead on your birthday. Has a good luck for the years to come. We also have eating noodles for long life and good fortune. We also celebrate Chinese New Year and we eat malagkit and some religious traditions. Now, these are some of the Asian traditions that are still practiced up to this day. Now, as we can see there, the traditions are so varied. We can see there that the traditions do not only come from the Philippines, but also from the neighboring countries of the Philippines, from Asia. Now, this evening we will be having a very rich country, which is considered to be the first, one of the biggest civilization, China. According to Napoleon Bonaparte, China is a sleeping giant. Let her sleep, for when she wakes, she will shake the world. Now, why do you think China is called the sleeping giant? Why do you think China is called the sleeping lion? China rose and became one of the world's first civilization. Because it is the largest of all Asian countries, it is rightfully considered one of the most populated countries in the world. Due to this, culture and diversity, as well as traditions, are prevalent. And Chinese literature is part of the East Asian literature, and it dates as far back as the hieroglyphics and has spanned through thousands of years. It includes fiction, poetry, scientific writings, and philosophical and religious works. Like many works of literature, Chinese literature started out as oral literature. This was mostly done through cult and lay musical practices. Through the different dynasties, Chinese literature slowly grew and expanded, making these works accessible for the people, as well as helping them with their day-to-day lives and how they lived. Now, China has different languages, and these languages are used and evident in the work of literature. So when a writer uses formal Chinese, however, these writings are considered as serious literature. The connection to present-day writers and traditional writers is that the traditional authors have paved the way for the newborn writers and their works of literature. Writers still look to literature written centuries ago for inspiration. Due to this, depth and seriousness, religion and philosophy has always been one of the fundamentals of Chinese literature. Thus, teachings such as Taoism and Confucianism hold a great influence over the Chinese society and people. So these writers, due to their works, have slowly gained followers throughout the years that follow their writings. So one of such writer has been an inspiration to many writers is Confucius. One of the many works of literature that helped sculpt the Chinese culture are the ones made by Confucius. Chinese culture are the ones made by Confucius, and Confucius was a thinker, a political figure, an educator, and founder of the Ru school of Chinese thought. It is fortunate that Confucius did not live to see how far his teachings went and how much his works have influenced the world. This was because when Confucius started his writings, he didn't gain as much followers as he did now. So as a matter of fact, Confucius never thought his teachings nor the belief or philosophy of Confucianism that he created would be applied to the world even today. So the sage merely gave his teachings in the hopes of influencing society to be better. Now, in his teachings, preserved in the Lunyu or Analects, formed the foundation of much of subsequent Chinese speculation on the education and comportment of the ideal man. How such an individual should live his life and interact with others, and the forms of society and government in which he should participate. Now here are some of the examples of the sayings in the Analects. If things far away don't concern you, you'll soon mourn things close at hand. What can a man do with music who is not benevolent? A youth is to be regarded with respect. How do we know that his future will not be equal to our present? If he reaches the age of 40 or 50 and has not made himself heard of, then indeed he will not be worth being regarded with respect. Despite, as we can see here, despite the different analysis and understanding for these samples of the sayings in the Analects, we have varieties of interpretations for this one. You should take note that Analects have one goal, and that is to teach a lesson. The Analects is composed of 12 books, different chapters. Although it has instances where there is a conversation between the master and someone, it should not be read as if it were a story. Rather, it should be seen as lessons and wisdom passed from the master to his followers. Now, one thing that readers have to take note of is that the Analects of Confucius is not a story. Rather, it is a compilation of his sayings and teachings. So to analyze the Analects, one must be able to take note of these key details. The first one, the speaker. Most of the Analects quote a speaker, the master, in their sayings. In this case, Confucius is the master, hence he is a speaker in the Analects. The other one is the maxim. This is a statement that expresses a certain truthfulness or rule of conduct. Each of the sayings in the Analects has a lesson, a statement, or a declaration of truth that the master wants his followers to realize or to follow. So in analyzing the Analects, one should know that what the maxim or saying is and understand it as it is. To do so, having a thesaurus or dictionary in hand can be very helpful with these difficult or deep words. The audience. This is the next one. Since Confucius is a leader and a sage with a group of followers who listen to his teachings, his audience often varies. So more often than not, it would be his followers, but some Analects are directed to the common villagers, to their leaders, or a certain group of individuals. To understand his Analects, one should know, take note, who the master is talking to in order to get a grasp of what he is trying to say. The fourth one, lesson or deeper meaning. Once you have already understood one of the sayings in the Analects, your next target is to move further and understand what Confucius wants you to learn through that saying. Note that most of the sayings should not merely be taken as literal, but also figurative. So this means that there is a deeper meaning or lesson than what meets the eye. And lastly, the reader's attraction. Each saying is meant for different individuals. Other than a deeper meaning, when reading, you would find a certain magnetism or attraction to a saying. So it is important to know why such a saying has made you feel that way. So it may be a personal experience or a memory. Going back to the basics and making it personal is a helpful way in knowing and understanding the Analects. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the main purpose of the Analects is to teach. So hence, each of the sayings hold a lesson on how a man should live his life properly. Now let us attempt on dissecting one of the sayings in the Analects. This one is taken from Book 1, Chapter 1 of the Analects. We have it right here. The virtue of the people is renewed and enriched when attention is seen to be paid to the departed, and the remembrance of distant ancestors kept and cherished. Now we can see here that the speaker is obviously the master. In the maxim, before delving deeper, it is important to understand the words and phrases. To do this, one may separate the saying phrase by phrase. Now let us separate the saying phrase by phrase. Now we can divide this one to 3 phrases. The virtue of the people is renewed and enriched. Phrase 1. When attention is seen to be paid to the departed. That's phrase 2. And the remembrance of distant ancestors kept and cherished. That's phrase 3. Now let's analyze this one. We have here phrase number 1. The virtue of the people is renewed and enriched. Let us first take the key words. Now what are the key words in this phrase? We have here virtue, renewed, and enriched. Second one is find a definition to it. Virtue, that means one's morality. When we say enriched, means being improved. When we say renewed, being restored or the act of restoration. So hence we can say that man's morality can be restored and improved. That's for phrase number 1. For phrase number 2, when attention is seen to be paid to the departed. This is a different way of approach as there is no need to nitpick this word per word. Instead, look at it in a generalized sense. Now, what do we mean by this? When one says the departed, this means the people who have lived long ago and are now but a memory. So when one gives attention to those who passed away, what does it mean? It means to acknowledge the memory of those who passed away. That's for phrase number 2. Let's have phrase number 3. And the remembrance of distant ancestors kept and cherished. Now this time, you can actually combine the 2 techniques, phrase 1 and phrase 2, on analyzing the third phrase. Let's have the keywords. Remembrance, distant ancestors, and cherished. Cherished, this means to take great care or give importance. Remembrance, more or less like memorabilia. And distant ancestors, people who have lived ages ago. So this means that memories of people who lived ages ago should be cherished and free, and rather kept. So to paraphrase that one, the saying can be interpreted as, we have here, man's morality can be restored and improved if he acknowledges the memory of those who passed away and remembers and treats it with great importance. So on the photo, you can see the difference between the original saying and our simplified form, maxim. So remember that this is merely changing it to a literal sense and finding the statement. So there will be a separate analysis for this lesson. So the audience here is the master. Who is the master speaking to? In this case, he's speaking to the general public, to the people, and on being virtuous. For the lesson, based on the maxim, one can say that you can be moral by not forgetting the past. The past, which is symbolized as the people ages ago. So one can say that you can be moral by not forgetting the past lessons and people, and by acknowledging them and treating them as special. And for the reader's attraction, this one is subjective, but one can state that this saying may be special to them due to the reason that remembering the past is significantly helpful in being moral. There you have it, a simplified way in analyzing the sayings of the Analects. Now, let us first, okay, so after this one, you have there how you analyze the Analects. Let's now have our activity. A short quiz will be posted in Google Classroom in a while, so kindly wait. This will be posted before our class ends, before our scheduled meeting time ends. Again, submit your work on or before the deadline. Now, for the attendance as a proof that you have watched the video, give some takeaways, 3 to 5 sentences about the lesson on the comment section of this post. So I'll be expecting that one, your outputs. Please submit your work on or before the deadline. So that would be all for this lesson. Have a nice weekend. God bless you.